Oh yeah, you can milk anything with nipples.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Hi guys, welcome back to Hi Lazaretto. You're here with your hosts. I'm the gentleman.
And as always, you know it's Papa Smoke, smoking it 24/7, baby.
Welcome back, guys. We've had a good day. I've been doing some work in my bedroom, but Papa Smoke's been getting turned in the front yard all day.
Yes, I mean, I've took full advantage of the sun. I can't deny about that. Every set of the sun, I keep on moving my chair, getting up I can, moving my chair. And I am pretty drunk, I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty drunk, I'm pretty high. So if anything goes wrong, I apologise for the in advance.
No, I think it's going to be beautiful. But the last we left, of course, is the podcast in which we watch films and then review them.
Yes.
And we're currently going through Total Film's top 100 most influential films of all time, and we're watching them and deciding if they deserve to be influential, if and how they have influenced, and also if they are a good asset to cinema. So our last watch was
The Graduate, Dustin Hoffman's, one of his... Well, it was his first film, wasn't it?
Yeah, his first role.
Yes. Yeah. I mean...
So, this is the first time that we've watched something where I've already seen it and you haven't.
Yes, I was going to say this is my first take on it. And I know it's such an influential film in cinema, and I know it's had such a prevalence there. But it was interesting for me, it's my first time to have a look at it and see what I truly thought about it.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. It's such a weird film. When you look at the story, it's such a weird film to then go, right, this is so influential because... The story's a little bit weird, if I've got to say so myself.
There's definitely two halves to this story. I mean, let's talk about the film first. Let's talk about why it's influential. And if anyone that's listening that doesn't know, the reason it's influential is because the main actor, the character Benjamin,
yes,
wasn't necessarily your traditional kind of protagonist in a film at this point in time. And of course, the casting of Dustin Hoffman was met with quite a lot of criticism. And the reason for that is that this film was one of the first films to really introduce a protagonist that's kind of a bubbling, awkward fool. Well, and without this film, apparently many films and many actors wouldn't be as big as they are now if it wasn't for how acclaimed this film became and how successful it did.
Well, if you don't mind me stepping in, that's exactly what I thought. The first time I ever watched this film, and he's such an awkward person. His character is so awkward.
Yeah.
Benjamin is the most awkward, like, I don't know if you've ever watched any of the offices, both the UK and the US office. Michael Scott... They are such the character, such an awkward... Every time you watch them on screen, you're like, you're literally curling his own bowl of awkwardness.
Yeah.
And he does it so well, so you think in the 60s, he then paved the way for the 90s comedies like his Bridget Jones, Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant was basically that character, the whole unawkward gentleman, I'll get all the women, but I stumble my way around it.
Yeah.
This is what he produced. This is the physical thing he manifested himself into.
Absolutely. You've got actors as well, as you've just mentioned, Steve Carell, who plays Michael Scott in The Office, and pretty much most Steve Carell's films are essentially this kind of character. Michael Cera as well, who pretty much has an entire career on just being this bumbling fool.
Fool that just stumbles his way in every situation, works out the best.
It is so ahead of its time, this film.
Yes.
And just even on a comedy aspect as well, because I was on the floor laughing at the first half of this film, and just kind of seeing this character and all the horrible situations he gets put into, like the scene in which he puts the scuba diving outfit on, and his parents are making him like do a trick or something, and it's
I love that.
It was still funny to this day. So it's
but that's what I mean. You've got to give it full on credit, right? My issue with it was, I don't know how much I was invested in the story, but the way it was shot, the whole cinematography of it, in the fact you've got to then look back at it. I know it's hard when I am watching it now because I'm from such a generation, but you've got to watch it as in the fact that it came out in the late 60s.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how weird, man. They've done things ahead of that time. Like you were mentioning that scuba diving scene when they watch it. It was like through a fish ends almost in GoPro. When did GoPro do fish ends and lensing? Like fucking...
No, that's it. It wouldn't have been that at all. GoPro wasn't a thing then.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, so you're thinking they done that before GoPro done that, and it's such a advancement in time. They didn't come out until like 2010, I think.
Yeah,
and it was like, it's literally like ahead of its time in such a way that if I watched that now, didn't have a look at the date or nothing like that, I'd be like, it's a late 80s film. So you gotta respect it for that. But god damn, I mean the story's weird. I don't know if you've got anything to...
No, of course. I mean, you know what, this film is so ahead of its time, and it was so nice. I watched this when I was a teenager. I got told to study it at college. And so it was one of the first... At that point in time, that was the oldest film I'd ever watched. So it just goes to show how little cinema I'd watched, like, pre-1990. And watching it again has been so good because as a filmmaker and as my skill set has developed, I've been able to really value how the mechanics work. And this film isn't just telling a story. It is really using the mise-en-scène, the cinema, to tell a story. So, for example, with the scuba diving scene... The director could have chose 101 ways to shoot that, but instead he chose to shoot a big part of that portion from a first-person perspective, as like in the scuba outfit.
That's what I'm trying to say. You don't see that in any other cinema of that time. You do not.
Exactly, and it's
so ahead of its time. You've got to like give it a credit, because even I was saying, my personal opinion is that the story is so. It's not simple because it gets a bit wild at some stages, but it's. The story itself, you do not have to put the amount of effort in to tell that same story as you did to shot the film. So they went above and beyond to put certain camera shots in, put certain aspects in and make it look so real, like beautiful colour. There's certain shots where, like, there's one where he gets into a bit of his creepy stage and he's stalking the mother of the girl that he's had an affair with.
Yeah.
And he sees it through a statue in her university, like a zoomed in shot of her, but then the vibrant colour of everyone else in that scene, it's just ahead of its time. You just look at it and go, that is not of its time. If you had to look at this late 60s film, you would not put that in that category. You would put it in the status of a late 80s film or even an early 90s film.
Yeah, I think a lot of kudos has to be brought attention to all the heads of departments in that film, because every element was spectacular. So going back to that scuba diving scene, the sound, all you can hear is of him breathing and the muffled voices of everyone else. But then you've also got moments like, I love the way in which it was shot. You know, the way it's filmed is kind of what's really telling the story. As you said there, you know, it's a very generic kitchen sink drama. This is the kind of storyline you would probably see on EastEnders. But the way in which they've shot it and the way they want to tell the story is what's made it so unique. And I love, so for a couple of examples, the production design, fantastic. There's a scene at the beginning which Dustin Hoffman, at the very beginning, we understanding this character that he's now just graduated and everyone's at his house to celebrate him graduating, and yet for some reason he's down in the dumps, he's not feeling quite. It's very much post-uni blues, which for me personally is something that I really, really connect with within the story. But there's a fish tanker behind it, and you see the scuba diver in the background, and it's all foreshadowing, but it's a metaphor for him feeling like he's drowning in his own thoughts.
Well, this is what we were saying. You were saying that the whole precipice of the film, I mean, the whole story behind it is you can have a couple of readings of it. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that have had 2 readings of The Graduate that have watched The Graduate.
Yeah.
And we were saying one of your favourite films, 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah.
It begins with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zooey Deschanel, and they are both explaining themselves in a younger sense, trying to explain how they then now perceive relationships in the older body that they are.
It's a really good way.
It's a misreading of The Graduate, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's because, like, you can read it. You can see it as a sense that it is an epic love story. That it will be like every person has a perceived looking at each other, first light, first love kind of vibe, you know what I mean? That they will look at some person in one day in their life and go, right, I love this person just on first appearance. Mm-hmm. And that's one way you can read it, as you would say then, he had this sort of affair with like Miss Robinson, and he found the daughter, and he had like a true love vibe. Or you can say it's just trying to compensate for the fact. Well, the way I perceive it is that they look at this. I was looking at Dustin Hoffman's character, and I was looking at his soul, and I was saying, if I was in his position, I would look at it this way: is that he's trying to compensate to the fact that he's been a man. He's turned into a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's trying to find his place in the world. He doesn't quite know it, and everyone in his world is telling him, "You've got to find this girl, you've got to marry her, and you've got to then project this life for yourself." But in not all cases, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, so for me, one of the reasons as you mentioned, 500 Days of Summer is one of my favourite films, and the reason it's one of my favourite films is because it really tries to tackle the ideals of romance, and I think even outside the spectrum of film, I think that television and film have glorified this way in which relationships are meant to be. And we kind of all believe now that there's this one particular person out there for you, and true love does exist, and that you're going to find someone and kiss them in the rain. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in 500 Days of Summer, because he has a misreading of The Graduate, he has this like weird besotted belief that, you know, his true love will be out there somewhere. And what I find so interesting about the film, and particularly for us watching it in the modern day, is there would have been, I imagine there would be a lot of people in the 60s that watched that film and found the second half of it just really endearing and going, yeah, you chase the girl, mate, you do that. But then we're looking at it now and being a lot more aware about relationships and social media. We're now seeing it going, well, actually, that's a little bit creepy. You only had one date. Like, it's not...
Yeah, when you think about the story, they had one date and they went on such a spiral on the second half of that film. And you're like, we're subjectively sitting back to it and going, yeah, that is so weird. But you can't say that maybe it's such a long time ago that might happen. You've just got to kind of go for it, innit? Because you had no way.
I do feel that
it is such a weird thing, because I don't know, like, I can't say for myself because I never lived through the 60s, so I can't say I had a personal experience of that way of like dating. But
yeah,
I would hope that it wasn't as creepy as he was, because he was a creepy character at some point.
I was, and I found it quite interesting that the first time I ever watched it, when I was about 16, I didn't think that. But now that I'm older and I've had the experiences of relationships and understanding how they work, and very much being aware now that it's not all silver screen romances, you know, relationships are hard and they're gritty, and there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made, and you find love in places you don't expect it. And when you usually try to force relationships in this way, I mean, look at the way social media works now. Everyone feels that they need to be with someone. You know, we're at an age now where we're kind of being told by the older generations that we should be settling down and we should be finding the one and getting married and having, like, ticking off this like list of life things. And I think The Graduate really is about that, when Dustin Hoffman's character is very lost in the world. He has post-university blues, he's having an existential crisis, like a quarter-life crisis, and people are telling him how he should behave and how he should be. And I think really the second half of the film, if you delve into it deeper than just face value, you can see that he's kind of almost hypnotized himself in a way to believe that, yeah, this is right. I've went on one date with a girl, because let's be honest, in the modern day, most people now would probably just continuing having an affair with Mrs. Robinson. That's quite a normal thing now.
I mean, I'm just going to hang it out there, and I don't care how I get perceived. And I feel... I'm not trying to make myself to be a grease bag, but if Mrs. Robinson propositioned me the way that Mrs. Robinson did in this film, I would be guns a-blazing. She is absolutely beautiful. I've got the...
That's what it is, though, because I find the relationship between Mrs. Robinson and Benjamin more endearing and more interesting, and which is why, for me, the second half of the film isn't as good. And although it's saying some interesting stuff, it's that I was a lot more invested in understanding why is this relationship happening. And there's a scene that I love. I mean, look, the film, every scene is filmed and
yes, that's what I'm saying. The cinematography is above standard.
And there's one scene where they're in the bedroom talking, and it's just one shot, and they've turned the lights off, and you're essentially just listening to them talk. And it's films like one of my favourite films, Her. And Her is entirely inspired by that, where you're just listening to a conversation of romance and love and two people trying to work it out. And that's the first time you really get to understand the psychology of Mrs. Robinson, and you lose that in the second half, and I think that's a shame. She becomes a villain after that.
The second half does become a bit of a harebrained, wild end. I don't know if the writing team or whatever got lazy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so great.
Yeah.
I really did lose interest in the story in the second half.
It did feel like it was dragging as well.
Yeah, the only thing that kept me going was the cinematography and the fact in the first half they kind of got us interested in the story, so I wasn't going to turn off halfway through to the fact I hate the story so much that I didn't want to be interested in its finish. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think they got a bit lazy. It's just like, and like you say, they do leave the end quite good. I do like the ending. It's just I feel the length of the film, the film was a lot longer than it needed to be tell the story. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
It was quite long. It dragged on, but I can't say for a 60s film that wasn't a beautiful piece of cinema. It was not. It had to be a beautiful piece of cinema, the way it was shot, the way everything was done. And it paved. I can see the influence on other later cinema.
Yeah, I mean, I would go as far to say, for me personally, this might be one of the best films of the 60s. And it's because all of my favourite films have been influenced by that. So not just her, not just 500 Days of Summer, but Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I've never seen that. I've seen the other two, but I've never seen
fantastic film, and it's one of Jim Carrey's more serious roles.
Yes,
it's pretty much my favourite Jim Carrey performance. And there's this moment in The Graduate which is like, there's this kind of like montage / dream sequence. You're not entirely sure what's happening, but you do understand the emotional depth of the main character and the struggle they're going through. And it's when he's like leaving the dining room with his family to then be in the hotel room with Mrs. Robinson.
We never fully researched that, but we were like thinking that's got to be very early in the time of montages, didn't we? We were like,
it's very French New Wave, the way it's shot. Yeah.
We were thinking it might not. It's probably not at all, but we were like, that's got to be very ahead of its time in the fact that it did that.
I mean, it's even stuff like, it's so weird, like he dives in the pool and then when he comes back up it then cuts to him jumping on top of Mrs. Robinson in such a sleek, smooth motion. He almost looks like an otter.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
and it's just so well made.
You've got to respect the fact that it did that.
Yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, as well as another film that really tackles the kind of, what we've been perceived to believe is how romance should work, and that film does play along a lot with memories and the fracturing of memories. So they very much have these kind of interesting montage sequences that don't necessarily make realistic sense, but then from watching it, you just totally accept it because you know that you're following this character. Now, my biggest question for you is, what did you think of that final shot, the end scene?
Well, my perspective is, I feel like they were both trying to, at the time, they're both characters. You think that, obviously, he set it as this character has done, he's got such a high grade of himself, he's a young man, done well in uni, and it does struggle. I've never been in a position myself personally, but I can imagine the struggle of trying to find your place in the world, because you're at a level of expectation that you are meant to then get a certain place in the world. So in his case, he graduated from a fine school in America, and he was then trying to pursue law. Yeah. At law school, he was meant to be following the footsteps of that trade.
Yeah.
But you look at these two young characters in the sense of, obviously Dustin Hoffman tried to come back home, and he was trying to find his place in the world, and then a sudden affair with Mrs. Robinson. But they were all trying to push him into gain a relationship with the daughter. Yeah. She was in the similar predicament, but she was a year younger. So she was graduating at the time he'd already graduated, or she was like, at the end, she was trying to figure out, she was in the position he was a couple of years ago, but she was trying to find her place in the world. She was also thinking that same mindset.
Yeah.
And at the end, obviously he comes and spoils this whole plan that is laid out by her parents. And you would think like, oh, right, he's done that. But I don't perceive it as that. I see it in the way as that it is. They were both unsure of their own selves, so they tried something out the whack.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that you look, there's a certain moment where they smile at each other and you're like, right, it ended nice. Then they kind of drop that sulk and you go, maybe in their predicament, they might have just been confused about their own situation, but in the long term, that wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, I think it's such a meta ending because exactly what we've been talking about today about how we're taught to believe in a certain mindset of we need to be married, we need to have these relationships, and these two characters are quite disillusioned. Like, there's no reason why she should think that this guy is a suitable guy for me because firstly he slept with my mum, but now he's followed us all the way to another state.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's such a weird, like...
But it is that they have both kind of almost brainwashed themselves in a way. And not brainwashed in, like, severely, like, stare at this ticking clock. But in the sense that every other factor around them is pushing them into a certain avenue. And they both run off together. And I find the ending so sad. So sad. And they get on there and they're smiling and they're really happy with themselves, and the camera just stays there.
Yeah, it just stays a little bit longer than it should have,
but it's such a beautiful way because then you begin to see that the illusion has been shattered for them. Yeah. They've suddenly went, shit, what have I done?
Can you not respect the fact that they were meant to give you something, like knowing how many films is give you an ending and they shut off black to black and they go, right, that's how we perceived, that's how the ending is. You leave it up to yourself, kind of, you know what I mean?
To know what the happy ever after was,
You've got to ponder. But this showed you just a little bit too long. Like, they could do that in so many things, like the end of a million films. They shut off and you're like, I wanted just 10 seconds more if I could have.
Yeah.
And they give you that 10 seconds and they look into the other side of it. It's just right at the end. So subtle. And I respect that they give they lead you down a certain path and right at the end they go 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And they don't. Same film, I respect Exception for that. And when he spins the fucking dream.
Yeah,
film.
That's it, yeah.
And it's just uncomfortably long that they don't want to end it then, but it's a little bit uncomfortable and you second guess yourself. I've got to say that's the best ending in cinema. If you second guess yourself right at the end, you've nailed an ending.
Yeah, I think The Graduate might actually have one of the best endings in cinema, and I'm not saying it's the best film in cinema, but it's definitely got one of the best endings. And you're right, at that time as well. It's kind of stopped being a Hollywood romance film because you're expecting them to kiss each other. The music gets louder. It's really romantic, really happy, and then the curtains draw and it's the end. But what you're actually seeing is those few moments after, and it's kind of helping you understand what world they're going to live in. I can see, like, in 10 years' time, in that same universe, they're going to be absolutely miserable together and regretting everything they chose to do.
That's what it is. It shows you, like, you've got a perfect ending in cinema, I feel, has got something that you want a little bit more, not so much more that you obsess on it and you get upset by the fact you can't find out more, but just a little bit that just tweaks your curiosity and says, I have a little interest. If I could find out, I would love that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to torture myself over the fact that I don't know it.
That's absolutely it. I mean, I guess we should wrap this up, but...
Yeah, how would you, if we're putting up, what would you say the film...
For me, it's an 8.
8?
Yeah.
I was going 7 because I didn't really like the story, but I've got to enjoy the fact how it was shot, and I've got to enjoy the fact it spawned so much, but it looked pretty as well. So I was going to go 7.
So meet halfway, 7.5?
Yeah, I can understand its influence.
100%, yeah.
I mean, like I said, it was ahead of its time, but the story goes a bit weird in the fucking second half.
But again, an element is the story being weird. It wouldn't have necessarily been weird for people in the 60s, but for us being more socially aware of, the tropes of romance, and in a way, the film has transcended into something else. It's now no longer this film in the 60s. It's about the story. It has now become this great discussion in which we're having right now.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's influenced so many things that even later films talk about going, I misread The Graduate in this, and it's worth mentioned a lot in pop culture.
100%.
That it's had an influence in the whole...
I would go to say, safe to say that this, out of all the films we've watched, this is definitely deserving of being in the top 100 most influential films of all time. It's influenced some of my favourite films, like I said, 500 Days of Summer, Citrus Dave, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless.
Citrus Dave, I mean, you've got to enjoy him. He's
that was a good film, wasn't it? Citrus Dave. If anyone hasn't watched it, go online and have a look. It's a fantastic film, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's very hard to find. I think it might be Polish. I'm not entirely sure.
Might be Polish. I mean, it's about a guy who steals all the juices out of this film. It's like citrusy juices. And
yeah. Yeah.
Creates havoc, really.
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
glass
100%.
But anyways,
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
talk about this later.
So, final part is
okay, so
your 3 films. I get
Right.
to pick them. Can I just stop for a moment and tell you, while you're looking at your films to decide which ones to tell me, is that this is now the 10th podcast we've done.
My mother, G and God, I never knew that.
High five.
Well done, sir. I'm actually really. I'm enjoying every second of it. I've got it's alright. I've got my head. You don't worry about that, sir.
Yeah, and I also got to say as well, Pop Smoke, you've done incredibly well for being pissed.
I mean, I've tried my best. I've been turned all day as well. So
you have, and you're turning redder and redder as the interview's going on.
Yeah,
You've suddenly turned
pop
into a lobster.
Pop like a boiled cherry or something.
Ah.
But
So Howie, lay it on me.
Before I die. First hand, I want to go The Abyss again.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So first kind of James Cameron vibe.
Yeah.
It was one of his first cinemas, and he was a very big cinema at the time.
Yep.
I want to go Blazing Saddles.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but
Blazing Saddles, it was a Gene Hackman film.
okay.
Early times, it's like a cowboy comedy western.
Okay, yeah.
Might enjoy it. And I wanted to go Jurassic Park again. I've spun 2 back in films that I was trying in before, but we're quite running low on films I want to watch in there, so I'm throwing them back in.
Right, so 2 films you're throwing back in now.
I've got Jurassic Park, I've got Blazing Saddles.
And The Abyss.
Yes.
Now see, the thing with The Abyss is that
It's got
I
that...
hate James Cameron so much.
Yeah. I know you do, but it's got that, Close Encounters of the Third Kind vibe.
Right, I tell you what.
It's got very,
I tell you what.
early extraterrestrial vibes.
Yeah, because I feel that the point of this podcast really is to broaden our minds, and if people are entertained by all the stupid stuff we say, then that's a bonus. But for broadening my own mind and challenging my beliefs, I'm gonna say The Abyss.
Right.
I swear to God, this better be good. Better not be a waste of my time.
You will not be upset by this. I've got to say it's one of his best works.
I mean, that's not saying much, but yes. Okay. Anyways, well, once again, guys, thank you very much for listening. This has been Hi Lazzarato. I am the gentleman.
And I am Parker Smoke, and I've got to say, Saudika.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
The price is wrong, bitch.